They promised us the apocalypse would be fire and brimstone. They lied. The end didn't arrive with a nuclear flash. It arrived disguised as a mandatory terms of service update, quietly rewriting the rules of being human. Welcome to Sector 7, where silence is the ultimate luxury good. Here, poverty isn't just hunger, it's noise. If you can't pay, you hear the screams, the relentless nutritional reminders, the 24/7 news feeds howling about the water wars. There is no off switch. Only the ultra-rich could afford the subscription tier that turned the volume down to zero. Kael was not rich. Kael was drowning. At 22 years old, his mind was a colonized territory. His neural link, the silver filigree woven into his left temple, was currently processing a barrage of data that would have killed a man from the previous century. His cortisol levels were projected in the upper right corner of his vision, red, flashing, 88%. A dating algorithm was whispering that he was lonely in his left ear. A nutrient vendor was screaming that he was deficient in his right. He wasn't running to get somewhere. He was running to outpace the signal. He turned a corner into a dead zone, a structural blind spot in the network, created by ancient brickwork and corroded conduits that the mapping drones couldn't penetrate. A glitch the city never bothered to fix. And there he saw it, an anomaly. It was a storefront made of matter, not smart glass, not programmable LED brick. It was wood, rotting, dark, inefficient wood. There was no holographic overlay, no reviews floating in the air above it, no open or closed projection, just a physical brass object hanging on the door. A bell. Kael touched the handle. It was cold. He pushed. The sound was violent, clangoling, a mechanical, jagged noise that ripped through the digital hum. Kael stepped inside, and the heavy door swung shut on a hydraulic hinge that hissed like a dying snake. Then, the miracle happened. Signal lost. His interface whispered, attempting to reconnect. The red flashing lights in his eyes vanished. The whispering ads cut off mid-sentence. The silence that followed was so heavy, so sudden, that Kael fell to his knees. He gasped, clawing at his chest, his brain reeling from the sudden absence of noise. It felt like stepping out of a hurricane into a vacuum. "We don't sell chargers," a voice grumbled from the shadows. "And the Wi-Fi has been dead for 20 years. Kael looked up, his eyes, dilated and frantically adjusting to the dim amber light, found the source. Elias sat behind a counter that looked like a fortress of debris. He was 80, though he looked 100. His skin was like parchment, translucent and mapped with veins. He was holding a physical pen, scratching ink onto paper. He didn't look up. I can't hear them," Kael whispered, his voice trembling. The voices. They stopped. Elias stopped writing. He looked over his spectacles. He had seen the disconnected before. Junkies crashing from a dopamine high. But this boy looked different. He looked terrified of his own freedom. "That's called thinking, son," Elias said softly. "It hurts at first. You'll get used to it." Kael stood up, his legs shaking. He looked around the room. It was a cavern of shelves, towering 20 feet high, packed with rectangular objects. The air tasted strange. It didn't smell like the recycled ozone of the street. It smelled sweet, like vanilla and decay. "What are they?" Kael asked, reaching out toward a shelf near the door. The spine of the book was red, gold letters peeling off the side. "Careful!" Elias barked, the sharpness of his voice cracking through the quiet. Kael froze, his hand inches from the spine. Elias moved out from behind the counter. He walked with a limp, the sound of his shoes on the floorboards echoing. He approached Kael and gently swatted his hand away from the red book. "That one," Elias said, pointing to the shelf Kael had almost touched, "is from 1950. A paperback. If you touch it too hard, it will turn to dust in your hands." Kael frowned. "Dust? Why? Isn't it archived?" "It's the brittle books era," Elias explained, his voice lowering into a teaching tone. "Between 1850 and 1980, humanity made a mistake. We got efficient. We stopped using rags to make paper and started using wood pulp soaked in acid, alum and rosin. We thought we were making knowledge cheaper. We were just making it suicidal." Elias reached past the red book and pulled out a much older, heavier volume bound in cracked leather. He handed it to Kael. "This one is from 1790. Before the acid, before the efficiency. It's made of cotton rags and linen. It's stronger than you are." Kael held the book. It was heavy, dense as a stone. He looked back at the red book on the shelf, the modern one that was disintegrating, and then at the ancient ancient one in his hand that felt indestructible. The newer stuff is dying, Elias murmured, looking at the shelves with a deep, grieving sadness. We have a hole in history, boy. The mid-20th century. It's flaking away. We traded durability for speed, just like you did out there. Kael stared at the object. He had always been taught that the future was better, stronger, faster. But here, in this tomb, the past was the only thing that had survived. I don't understand, Kael said, handing the heavy book back. It's just static. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change. Elias chuckled. A dry, rattling sound. You think it's broken because it doesn't ask for your password? You think it's boring because it doesn't play a video? Elias took the book back. You observe with your eyes, but you don't see. The old world wasn't simple. Boy, it was just hidden. The old man held the book up. It was a collection of poems, the edges of the pages covered in what looked like plain, dull gold leaf. To the untrained eye, it was a dull, gilded brick. Watch the edge, Elias commanded, his grip tightening on the cover. With the precision of a master mechanic, he bent the pages back, fanning them at a sharp 45-degree angle. The transformation was instant. Kael gasped as the solid gold edge dissolved like a mirage. In its place, a masterpiece materialized. A hidden watercolor landscape of a farmhouse buried in winter snow, hidden within the very atoms of the paper. It was a high-resolution image that physically didn't exist when the book was closed, and appeared like magic when manipulated. Four-edge painting, Elias whispered, watching the wonder wash over the boy's face. Artists did this 300 years ago. A secret image that only reveals itself if you know how to hold it. No battery, no download, just mechanics and mastery. He snapped the book shut. The painting vanished, returning to solid gold. Kael stood there, stunned. He had grown up believing that interactive meant a touch screen. He had never considered that a physical object could hide a secret dimension. It works, Kael whispered. It actually works. It always works, Elias said. It never runs out of power, and it waits for you. Teach me, Kael said. How do I use it? The interface. Elias grabbed a different book, East of Eden. He handed it to Kael. There is no interface. You are the operating system. Read the first line. Kael sat on the floor, the dust motes dancing around him. He opened the book. The smell of vanillin, the decomposing lignin, hit him again, acting like a sedative. He read, The Salinas Valley is in northern California. It is a long, narrow swale between two ranges of mountains. At first, it was painful. His eyes wanted to dart around, looking for the skip intro button, scanning for keywords. His brain, wired for the dopamine hit of a notification, screamed at the slowness. Focus, he told himself. He read the sentence again, and then, the glitch stopped. The text didn't change, but his mind did. He wasn't seeing the letters anymore. He was seeing the valley. He felt the dry heat of the California sun. He smelled the sagebrush. He was building the world in his head, rendering the graphics with his own imagination. He wasn't consuming content. He was creating it. Elias watched from the counter. He saw the boy's breathing slow down. He saw the tension leave his shoulders. The old man looked at the tablet on his desk. Demolition drone inbound. ETA, 2 minutes. Elias sighed. He had bought the boy a moment of humanity. It would have to be enough. The peace was shattered not by noise, but by light. Blue strobe lights flooded through the dirty storefront window. The hum of anti-gravity thrusters shook the floorboards. The dust fell from the shelves like snow. Tenant 404, a voice boomed. Amplified, metallic, soulless. Property acquisition complete. Exit structure immediately for demolition. Elias slumped against the counter. The climb was over. The hole had opened up to swallow him. He looked at Kael. Go, Elias said, his voice cracking. Take the book. Run. Kael stood up. The blue light washed over his face, illuminating the panic in his eyes. He felt the neural link flicker, weak, unstable, catching fragments of the drone's broadcast bleeding through the cracks of the dead zone shielding. Partial signal detected, the interface warned. Reconnect attempt unstable. Kael looked at the drone hovering outside the glass, a sleek, white egg of perfect plastic. Then he looked at the book in his hand, the paper that was fragile, yet stronger than time, the secret painting hidden in the edge. He realized something. The drone could destroy the building, but it couldn't destroy the story, unless Kael stopped telling it. Kael didn't run. He walked to the door. What are you doing? Elias hissed. Kael kicked the door open. The noise of the city rushed in, the sirens, the ads, the screaming wind. The drone hovered 10 feet away, its weapon systems locking onto the structure. Target identified, the drone stated. Vacate. Kael tapped his temple. System override. Unauthorized broadcast. The dead zone's interference had opened a brief, unstable backdoor in the district's ad node, just wide enough for a transmission. Warning, his interface said. Unauthorized bandwidth usage. This will cost you everything. Pay it, Kael said. He opened the channel. He wasn't broadcasting to a few friends. He was hijacking the local ad node. Every billboard, every neural link, every smart glass surface in Sector 7 flickered. Kael didn't point a camera at himself. He locked his gaze onto the page, anchoring himself against the digital storm. I am not selling you anything. Kael's voice thundered, reverberating off the neon-stained skyscrapers, drowning out the sirens. I am going to read you a story about a valley. The drone froze in midair. Its logic processors rerouted into the contingency protocol that triggered whenever public sentiment shifted too quickly for prediction models. A pause designed to prevent civil unrest. It wasn't a cyber attack. It wasn't a transaction. It was something the machine had no code for. Kael began to read. He read about the Gabalin Mountains. He read about the soil. He read with the slow, deliberate cadence of a man who had discovered that time was a luxury. In the apartments above, people stopped scrubbing their dishes. On the street, commuters froze. The sheer audacity of it, a voice, unedited, without background music, without quick cuts, simply telling a story. It was a frequency the system had no category for, human attention given freely, without being bought or harvested. The viewer count on Kael's interface didn't matter. What mattered was the drone. Anomaly, the drone word. Public sentiment anomaly detected. Demolition suspended by fail-safe protocol to prevent riot risk escalation. The machine hovered, unsure. It was programmed to destroy buildings, not culture. And for the first time, the algorithm didn't know the difference. Kael finished the paragraph. He looked back at Elias. The old man was crying, silent tears tracking through the dust on his face. He nodded once. Kael looked at the drone. We're not leaving, he said to the city, and neither are you. Come inside. We have thousands of them. He turned around and walked back into the gloom, the door swinging shut behind him. The bell chimed, clang-a-ling. Outside, the rain began to fall, washing the neon grime off the streets. But inside, the air was dry. It smelled of vanilla. And for the first time in a century, the story was just beginning.